with just a regular old pencil and a blending stump. I'm really enjoying using these here lately. I didn't used to, so do whatever works best for you. I've got a reference shot over here, and I'll just have it sitting over there to the side. And you'll have to excuse if you can hear the heater in the background. It's really cold here in Kansas while I'm filming this. It's currently about 15 degrees. I like to start with a nice sharp pencil. So I've got a couple of those. But you're going to start with the top of the head here. Let's say the bottom of her chin is here. This is all drawn really lightly so that it's easily erasable. And just sort of do an egg shape. Another nice thing about this reference photo is that it's straight on. There is no tilt to the head. There's no 3/4 view. It's just straight on. So if we draw a line right down the center, these two halves should be about equal in size. If you measure from the top of the head to the chin, about halfway is where her eyes are going to be. And remember, this is an egg shape, so it's round. I'm not going to draw it straight across because it's a round shape. And then about halfway from there to there, I'm going to draw another curved line there. And then let's go ahead and mark in about where the lips would be. She has a hoodie on her head, so I'm not going to worry about the hairline right now. I'm going to just focus on the features. If we start the nose with just 3 circles, one larger in the middle, and she has a pretty round nose there. Also, don't forget your eyebrows. Just about right there. Now each person's going to be a little bit different here and there. You know, maybe their eyebrows are a little higher, a little lower. Maybe their nose is a little longer. But this is a starting point to get going. I forget what the name is for the little space between your nose and your upper lip, or your lip. There's a name for it. Now if you look at the eyes are in an eye socket. What you also want to remember is the width of each eye equals the width in between the eyes. So if right here is the inside of her eye, you'll notice that it lines up right with the side of the nose. So we're going to do the same on the other side. I'm still drawing this really light, even though these marks look darker. Remember, the space between the eyes equals the width of the eye. So let's go ahead and we'll kind of measure that out. Let's see if we got that right. Now this doesn't have to be exact. This is just a guideline. She has kind of she's looking upward at you. I got that way too dark. But see how easy those lines erase. And we can make adjustments. And remember too that the eye is a ball in a socket, so that socket, the eyelids, the lower and the upper, are going to create a shadow in here where they go over the eyeball itself. I'm drawing just kind of an almond shape, a large almond shape. Try and get them both about the same size. And she's looking up toward us. I've gotten the lower lid a little too low. Anyway, what you're doing is you're drawing in the big shapes and then going down to the small shapes. You don't want to start putting in the pupil of the eye and everything else when you're not for sure if that's where it's going to wind up. Another thing, the center of the eye, if you go straight down, that usually meets the corner of the mouth. And she has full lips. I'm going to have to lower my chin here. I got it too high. Her eyebrows start about right there. And I'm just sort of placing things where I think they should go. Inside the eye here, by the nose, the bridge of the nose, there's usually a really light spot right in here, and then there's a shadow where the corner of the socket becomes the bridge of the nose. Okay, this is a decent start. At this point, I usually like to start putting in the cheekbone area. So she's got this hoodie on, and it's creating a shadow. So her cheekbones, and this is hair out here. This right here is just the hoodie, the edge of her rain jacket or whatever it is here. There's a sharp shadow this way. I'm still kind of just placing things. I'm not being exact. Things are going to adjust and move. Now the top of her head, I'm going to erase this center line here. The top of her head is going to be a little bit higher because you have to figure she's got her hair in here and there's the fabric of the jacket. So I'm going to erase that now that I know where it is. Faces are not that difficult to draw. It's just knowing value and shape and getting that form. And I'm just lightly sketching in. She has the shadow that forms in there, which is much lighter than this line, by the way, but I'm just marking it for my own notes because her eyebrows are much darker than this line. There's a slight indent right there. There's not a lot on this side because there is hair covering it. I hope that heater in the background's not bothering you too much. We have everything placed sort of where we want it to go. So I'm going to start doing some shading here and just blocking in some of the darker areas that are obvious. I'm not paying attention to like the direction of her eyebrow hair at this point. I am just blocking in shadows. The darkest area on the face is going to be the eye pupil. And I'm still doing this really light. I'm not doing it with a lot of pressure so I can still lift it up easily. But the darkest areas are going to be the pupil of the eye, inside the nostril, and the corners of the mouth. She's very fair skinned, so I'm going to try and remember, like I said, the eye socket and the eyelid covers it, so there's this shadow in here. So I'm going to put that just ever so gently. And I'm just going to keep developing those forms, developing them as I go. Like I said, at this point I'm choosing not to focus on the direction of the hair. She has very light colored eyes, but you still get the outside of that iris usually has a darker ring around it. is this area right in here, the outside of the. And I did these shadows without any softening of the edges, so be aware that we can go back in and do that. This is just sort of mapping out where they are. The main thing we want to focus on are these features at this moment. The upper lid is lip. The upper lip is usually a little bit darker than the bottom lip because there's a shadow there with one being over the other. And remember, the center of the eye is usually where the corner of the mouth meets. I think I got her mouth a little crooked here. I'm going to start erasing these proportion lines that I put in there. I have a kneaded eraser here to do detail work. In the corner of the eye, I'll have a little shadow for the tear duct. And you should get more and more sure that your placement is correct. You can go a little darker. You want to compare your shadow areas to each other, whereas this area on her nose, her nostril, the outside, is darker than the area next to it. The shadow for her tear duct is not as dark as I have it, but I kind of like it like that. And I'm leaving this hair the way it is and not showing the placement of her ears and such, because often this is what you're going to have to deal with. If you were placing her ears, the top would be about where her eye, the corner over her eye is, and then the bottom is going to be about here. So her ear would be placed about like that, with this straight on view. And you just keep building this up and going back and forth until you get what you want and what you need. This corner of her mouth right here is a little darker. And I'm still not pushing down real hard on this pencil. Still fairly subtle. In fact, I'm finding it very difficult to get a really light mark. They say that every portrait is a self-portrait, and my face is wider than hers, so I think that is probably why I'm having trouble with making it narrow enough. Now if I start using a blender, I can start getting some of these values that I'm having trouble with my pencil. I failed to get her eyelashes on this side, and they do show up. This has a roundness, even though that stark shadow is down here. I still want to give it some form so it's not flat. This blender works really well for that. But if you just keep developing it and keep marking and keep looking at how things are in relation to each other, eventually you'll get to a point to where you either have a likeness or you have a piece that's doing what you want it to do. Sometimes before you can get it the way that you want it, you have to look at it in different ways. I use a mirror sometimes, or another thing that a lot of people do is they'll turn their work at a 45-degree angle and also turn their reference photo the same angle and compare the two, and it gives you a different viewpoint. And then keep turning it at a 45-degree angle until you could do a 180 with it. And if you still don't have it the way you want, then just continue doing that at different angles. Okay, I'm going to stop there. So, because that gives you an idea of where things go. So if you have any questions or observations, insights, if you want to share some yours, just let me know below. And thank you for watching. All right, bye-bye.